So here we. All right, welcome to another Zoom call. Um, we'll get started with this. You ever wonder why the verses, so many verses, if we talk about God will uphold us with His right hand. Interesting side note on that. I used to teach a course on covenant theology. You made covenant with your right hand. When tribes would make covenant with one another, that's why we still shake right-handedly. We shake hands. All comes back to how tribes used to make covenants, and this is how God taught us as human beings to make covenants. You actually made a cut in your right hand. You bled. Both parties would make cuts in their right hands, and you'd grasp hands together, thereby mingling your blood, saying that we are now blood brothers, and it was by your right hand that you made covenant. So actually, when it talks throughout Scripture that God will uphold us with His right hand, it talks about his covenantal hand. That's he's promising to uphold His covenant through His Son Jesus Christ with us, and that's what our hope is in that covenantal relationship that we have through His Son Jesus Christ. Interesting side note there. Okay, let's move on. If you have not been on the member site, we have really good news. We are now going back to offering one-on-one calls, the way that we're able to kind of get around that. So first of all, when State Board came after us and multiple other doctors, I did ask you a few weeks ago to be praying for Scott Jensen. He's a Minnesota doctor who ran for governor under the Republican ticket and lost to Tim Walz, who was the existing governor in Minnesota, but long story short, Dr. Jensen is a practicing medical doctor in northern Minnesota, and throughout the whole process that they have been weaponizing the state board to come after him politically. So they use the state board as a political weapon against their adversary, their quote unquote enemy in the Republican Party, which I think is just absolutely downright criminal. So be praying for him, because they are going ruthlessly after him, and so is Ellis, our Secretary of State. But when the board came after us last June and filed a lawsuit against us, if you haven't, we've talked about this multiple times. They said all these things against us. We had to take down tons of stuff on our website and clean up our website, and the bottom line was they couldn't prove anything, and they ended up dropping. It's basically settling the whole suit with just requiring us to put on that little stipulation on the bottom of our website that we don't practice medicine in Minnesota, which was so ridiculous, because anybody who became a member and became a patient of ours had to fill out the whole PMA agreement, which went 100 times beyond that stupid little paragraph. So that was their compromise, which was 100 times less than what we already did, which is just absolute foolish political nonsense. But we can go back to one-on-one calls if we're calling them educational calls, not telemedicine visits, and you agree to terms on the form that you have to complete. So you just have to complete the form. You'll see on the member site this box, educational coaching calls, not a telemedicine visit, and it explains a little bit here. And you have to click on this thing right here, coaching call request form, similar to the cheek swab request form. And it actually helps save you some time on that, in your calls, that we're not, that you could kind of preempt me for the visit, so I know what you want to talk about. It will save us maybe a few minutes on the call, so it'll save you some money, and time. And then you can also pay for the call right there too. That saves us staff-wise having to submit that. So now if you just fill out that form and you agree to the terms that it's not a coaching, that it's not a telemedicine visit, I'm not practicing medicine, and you agree to the terms, you agreed to much more stringent terms when you signed up for our whole thing here. So, yay, yippee, woohoo, excited to go back to these calls. And quite honestly, this was a spiritual battle for me as well. They came after me and basically, threatened, to throw me in jail for doing what we're doing. I had to come down to, there's things that we had to clean up in our office. There's things that we needed to protect ourselves with. And I think we made those changes, and God uses adversarial situations to help us grow and change and molds us and shapes us to be better witnesses for him. But in my prayer time last week, I was just really convicted about I'm supposed to be doing what God has called me to do, regardless of the circumstances, and whether they decide to throw me in jail or not, I'm going to continue to do what God has called me to do and be a faithful witness regardless. So going back to these telemedicine visits, not telemedicine visits, these coaching call visits that are not telemedicine visits, and we want to help as many people as we can. So you'll see this form on there. Just click on this it's on multiple pages on the member site. And you can just call and talk to Maureen or Angie, whoever answers, and schedule that as well. Reminder that you have access to all our courses. We're going to have a new autoimmune disease course up here in a few weeks. That's going to be a great informational course too. So, and you have the full, all our blog posts, remember, on our members. Make sure you search for those too. Okay, some questions. How often can you take the Rife programs that get rid of parasites? How often can you use the Rife programs that get rid of parasites? So the parasite programs, like the All Bugs Kill program and some of the other very specific parasite programs, you could literally run those 24/7 if you wanted to. Now, not suggesting you do that because you want to be running your cancer programs, but parasites don't have what you have to be careful with other programs. There's really only the certain bacterial programs that will cause Herxheimer reactions, and that I would say it's not wise to do too much of those. Those are typically Lyme programs. So Lyme, the Borrelia burgdorferi bacteria, is a gram-negative bacteria that has lipopolysaccharides in the cell membranes. And if you kill gram-negative bacteria too quickly, you will liberate a lot of lipopolysaccharides, and it will stimulate an immune system reaction that, if you have an autoimmune disease, can really cause a flare. We don't deal with that with cancer patients, so that's not what we're talking about. But cancer patients could also have Lyme disease. And if you're going to run a lot of Lyme programs, you could Herxheimer, give yourself a Herx reaction, which is not what you want to do. You will not do that when you run parasite programs. That will not happen when you run cancer programs. So you can run those as often as you want. I did a search on hammer bulb and variants, and also jackhammer amplifier, an item I saw when looking over the TruRife website. It came up empty, so 2 questions. 1, I know the hammer bulb is intended as a sleeping partner that you get right next to, which I do nightly. At what distance is it so weak that it's of no real benefit? So if you're using the bulb without the jackhammer amplifier, it could be about 3 feet away from you and still have some benefit. Of course, the farther you move away from you, the less benefit. So that's why I tell you to snuggle with the bulb. But if you have the habit of the thing falling on the floor, you're really restless at night, and the thing ends up being 4, 5, 6 feet away from you every single morning when you wake up, then getting the jackhammer amplifier would be a wise thing to do, because that really pushes it out a number of other feet. So I've said multiple times the jackhammer amplifier really isn't necessary for most of our patients, unless you're going to do it during the day, since I tell people to snuggle with the bulb. But we have some patients that just can't snuggle with the bulb, and they get the amplifier so that they can put the bulb under their bed. Now we send all our patients and our, with the jackhammer amplifier comes with it, but anybody that's purchased a right from us or the plan from us, prior to 2 weeks ago, then you didn't get it, then you'd have to purchase it separately from TrueRide. So, but I personally don't use it because I have the bulb right next to me, and it really doesn't go anywhere. So it's still snuggling. It's right up to next to my body when I wake up in the morning. So, but if you wake up in the morning and it's 4 feet away from you, and it could have been like that all night, then getting the jackhammer may be the thing to get. So number 2 is the jackhammer something I should look into? Well, if those circumstances prevail, then yes. Does this extend the range? Yes, it extends the range. Does it boost power? Well, it just extends the range. So yes, you have more amplification. So, but if the bulb is right next to you without the jackhammer, it's still going to go through you. So, if you have the habit of sleeping right next to it and you always use it with it right next to it, then you don't need the jackhammer. But if you use your right at different times where the bulb is 2, 3, 4 feet away from you, then get the jackhammer. I'll make a video about this and put it up on the site too. What do you think about using ivermectin as a cancer preventative? Well, there are studies that are out there that ivermectin has helped people with cancer. So that is another protocol that you could use. You could get ivermectin and take it as a cancer treatment. As a cancer preventative, well, what is preventing cancer? Well, you're trying to if you're truly preventing cells from uptaking toxins that could damage the DNA, then it's just trying to live the best lifestyle you can so that you're not exposed to as many toxins. But the truth is, it's literally impossible to not be exposed to toxins. So if you're defining prevention as that you never get a diagnosis of cancer because it's helping your body kill it prior to it ever getting to the size that it will ever be diagnosed, then I'd say yes, could be a preventative. So is taking medicinal mushrooms, not having cancer. And you take mushrooms anyhow. You take immune stimulants and aloe immune product and polysaccharides and curcumin and other good products so that you don't get cancer. You're taking it so you can kill it before it ever becomes cancer too. So you are doing that as well. So yes, I think that would be something to take. I don't personally know a number of people that take ivermectin literally daily, or they more people that pulse it. They might take it 3 days a week. And they're not taking, I'll just tell you, they're not taking a prescription. They're taking over the counter, buying it at Fleet Farm type places, the paste for horses. And they have sworn by it for years. It really helped them through COVID. And there's different pages that you can get on, different groups that you can get on, that there's thousands and thousands of people in the group that are doing this. So with no side effects to that. So you're taking a very low dose. Nitric oxide question. Dr. Bush and Dr. McCullough have exercises that I think are supposed to increase nitric oxide. They take 4 minutes to do and you're supposed to do them 3 times a day. I've been doing them for over a year and feel a year and a half, and I feel good when I do them. Also, the biologic dentist I'm seeing wants me to take a supplement called Neo 40, which is a nitric oxide boosting supplement. I read somewhere that nitric oxide isn't good for people with cancer. I had a small breast cancer tumor removed last April and no but I still have circulating tumor cells in my body. Are these exercises good to do? How about a nitric oxide supplement? If not now, is there any time they would be okay or good to take? How do I know? So nitric oxide is a phenomenal, is a nutrient that your body actually will make. And it's a nutrient that you take in a lot of things too. It's partly through the glutathione pathway. Nitric oxide functions in largely in the endothelium. So the endothelial layer is the layer of epithelial cells that line the vascular system. All your arteries are made up of the interior lining is called the endothelium, and it's a single cell layer of epithelial cells. Right underneath that endothelial layer is smooth muscle layer. And that smooth muscle layer is controlled by neurologically through the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So it is a autonomic nervous system control. That's what controls your blood vessels. You don't think, oh, contract my blood vessels and they contract, or relax my blood vessels and they relax. If they're autonomic through the autonomic nervous system, that's sympathetic and parasympathetic control. And then there are tons of different receptors on those muscle layer cells that will uptake nitric oxide and other things that will cause relaxation, thereby dilation and constriction of those muscles, thereby constricting the blood vessels and thereby increasing the blood pressure. So if you have high blood pressure, taking nitric oxide supplementation, and I think there's a lot better supplementation than the NEO40. I'll tell you that right now. But somebody with high blood pressure should strongly consider nitric oxide supplementation. Now, the problem with that with cancer is that nitric oxide also stimulates a wonderful thing called vascular endothelial growth factor, which is how you make new blood vessels. And what you'd want if you have a history of cardiovascular disease, any type of cardio problems, you want an uptick in vascular endothelial growth factor, because you could actually you grow what are called anastomosing vessels that help feed the heart and other tissues. And nitric oxide, like I said, will relax the smooth muscles and cause dilation of vessels, thereby decreasing blood pressure. So, great thing, right? Yeah, but the problem is if you have a growing cancer, especially, and we're not talking about blood cancer, we're talking about hard cancers here. So not leukemia, but a lymphoma, yes, and any other of the regular cancers that we're talking about. If you have a mass of any kind, and you increase your nitric oxide production, you are going to increase your vascular endothelial growth factor. So long story short, you do not want to increase vascular endothelial growth factor if you have a hard tumor, because you'll increase the growth of blood vessels into the tumor, thereby feeding the tumor better and thereby causing the tumor to grow. So the standard rule is, you're basically treating cardiovascular disease patients and cancer patients oppositely, very differently, especially if they have a mass. So let's say, this case, this person, this question said, I had a small breast cancer removed. I still understand I have circulating tumor cells in my body. So yeah, so you don't have a tumor right now. Could you do nitric oxide exercises? Well, for sure. Could you take even a nitric oxide supplement? I would say no, unless you have any signs of high blood pressure. Because If you have normal or even low blood pressure and you take nitric oxide supplements, that could be a problem too. So you could have too much relaxation of endothelial smooth muscle, and could you could cause dizziness and all sorts of things too. So that's not a good thing. Remember, everything in your body's about balance. But if I had a mass in my breast that was, palpable and I'm still dealing with it, there's no way I would touch any nitric oxide supplements whatsoever, nor would I take nitric oxide, nor would I do any nitric oxide exercises. So if I have, pancreatic cancer, I have colon cancer, if I have, breast cancer, or any known mass whatsoever in my body that was cancerous, you do not do any nitric oxide. You're increasing vascular endothelial growth factor, and you're going to worsen your problem. I mean, big time. It could cause growth, so don't do that. But remember, anything you read about, you're listening to things, this is great, you're learning things, nitric oxide, you talk to somebody, I think it was Dr. Nathan, that's his last name, wrote a book on nitric oxide. Of course, you write a book on it, that's the world's best for everything. You got to understand the balance of everything, right? So nitric oxide, your body does make it. You do get it in your diet. You get it in that's why we tell people not to eat kale shakes if you have cancer, because it's the highest in nitric oxide. You get nitric oxide in green leafy vegetables. So it's good. You need that balance, but you don't want an abundance of it with any type of cancer. With my last cheek swab results, you sent a reminder of no dairy. I do not do dairy except allowed organic butter. Should I be decreasing or eliminating this as well? No, you're fine if you're having a little bit of organic butter every day. I mean, if you're eating a stick of butter every day, then that's a problem. But putting a little organic butter on something, then that's just fine. You're okay. I'm going to be meeting 2 different breast surgeons in the coming weeks and want to be prepared with good questions. I want to avoid problems or complications later if I do have surgery. I don't know what to look out for or what to request so that I may be discerning and choose the right person or team. Any advice? That's really hard. You have to just feel comfortable with your surgeon, number one. So I always suggest that you do have a meeting or 2 with him or her, and that you feel comfortable. You should be praying about that and ask that God gives you discernment in this. There aren't any really specific questions that I can think of or things to look for in that. It's really whether they're hopeful and and you feel like they're honest with you. You don't want to do surgery just because that's the thing that they do at this point. You want to do surgery because it's the right thing for you. And you want a surgeon that thinks that too, so that they look at your case and look at your CT scan or MRI or anything, and they say, yep, I think this is what we're going to do. I think this is going to be really good. And ask, there's nothing wrong with asking, what would you do if this was your sister? What would you do if this is for your wife or your friend, your best friend? Could you please be just honest with me and ask them that question? Please really be honest with me, and see if you get a heartfelt, honest answer from them. So that's what I would do. I just sent you a cheek swab. I forgot to mention, we did go to a biological dentist because one of my causes on my initial cheek swab was dental. I haven't had any dental work done in my life except for a couple of pulled baby teeth and wisdom teeth. The biological dentist did a panoramic CT and said he did not see any indications of infections or anything wrong. So is there anything I could be missing as far as dental cause? No. So if the cause was dental, it could have been from 15 years ago, there was an infection. And because of the great things because I know who wrote this, the great things that you've done over the years, you killed it and you're doing great. So that's that, you did the right thing. This is the right thing to do with your biological dentist. If they didn't see any infection, any underlying infection, then you're good to go. So you're perfectly on the right track. I have metastatic breast cancer to the bones in January, February, went off all my meds. My alkaline phosphatase, this is a liver function test, but remember alkaline phosphatase also will go up if there's bony destruction. So if there's bony destruction from metastatic cancer to the bone, which remember I said multiple times that almost all metastatic cancer to the bone is lytic in nature, meaning it's destroying bone, and alkaline phosphatase will rise. So this is a good marker to use for if there's any increase in bony destruction. So this went down, so that's really good. So my calcium went from 9 to 9.3, but that's not much. That's not enough of a difference to say that there's lab error there. So I would say that's really the same. So you're still within normal range there, so that's fine. Your AST went from 22 to 36. AST really has nothing to do with bony destruction. So AST has to do with it's a liver enzyme, has to do with some liver function, or it could be simply because detoxing the different meds. That's literally what it could be from. But there's lots of different things that could cause that rise. But even at that, I wouldn't be concerned. And since you're going to do the blood work monthly, let's just keep an eye on it. And again, with all blood work, remember you're looking for patterns. So what is the pattern? How does it change? Is it going in the right directions, or is it going in the wrong directions over time? So that's good. Okay, some questions that came in. Are you familiar at all with the Whole Food Supplement brand Standard Process? Yes, very familiar with Standard Process. I used to sell all of Standard Process supplements. I was very big into Standard Process until I had a confrontation with them. And the confrontation was that Standard Process opened up their own online store and their own Amazon store, and then they stopped any practitioners that were selling online, and they cut off our account. So I thought that was very unethical of them as a company, and why, and that practitioners like me are what built their company by talking up their products to our patients, and for them to basically undercut their practitioners by selling their own products online was just, to me, that was just so unbelievably unethical. We could sell Standard Process again because my daughter is a chiropractor and works in our clinic, but I choose not to because of that. It just, to me, that just was just really hard for me to and they continue their unethical. I don't know who owns the company now, but they continue their unethical practice, because I just heard last month that they fired a rep that was with them 20 years because he built up too big of a business and they wanted to take over that clientele. He had multiple employees for I just don't like companies that do business in that kind of way. So they have great products, don't get me wrong, we just don't sell any of them. So we have a lot of people that take their products, and I'm not talking about them to bash their products. I've never ever said one negative thing about Standard Process except to my staff. But this is the first time somebody asked a question. Hi, is Icelandic cod liver a wild caught in a can okay to eat once or twice a week? Yes, I'd say yes. You can eat that. You can buy wild caught salmon, lots of places. even our local grocery store in Minnesota is Cum Foods. They have wild caught salmon that's frozen. That's actually fairly inexpensive compared to other, if you went to Whole Foods or something like that. But yeah, I know you could get, there's argument that when you have canned foods, you could get heavy metals or aluminum in it. I have never seen the studies on what, if there are any in this particular product, and maybe you could Google it and find out. But you could probably make an argument that there's heavy metals in just about every food that we eat. And that's why you're on gut healing stuff so that you don't absorb these heavy metals in the foods that we eat. But yeah, I would say anything within reason is fine. I've been waking up at 2 a.m. and my heart is beating more and I can't get back to sleep. What can I do about that? I'm not eating after 6 p.m. Thank you. Okay, so if you wake up at 2 a.m. every night, what could that be a symptom of? Well, there's a lot of things, but there's this hormone in your body that your adrenal gland makes called cortisol. So cortisol is released at times of stress. So if you're driving down the road and you hear a police siren behind you and you feel like your blood pressure just went up, your face just kind of flushed a little bit because you got a little scared, but they might have been after you and then they zoom by you and you're like, whew, that is a release of cortisol. Among other things, there's some epinephrine released also. The cortisol increases your blood pressure. So cortisol contracts your arteries, it increases your blood pressure because it's a good thing to have your blood pressure released if you have to run away from a polar bear. So at times of stress, you sometimes need to flee. So you need an increase in blood pressure to pump blood to your extremities and feed oxygen to the muscles so that you can run away. So there's purpose in that. So remember, everything is in balance. That's not a bad thing. So cortisol is also released in a circadian rhythm in order for you to release your glycogen stores in your liver. So glucose, you eat food, you eat carbohydrates that break down to glucose. So the glucose, excess glucose is stored in your liver as a long chain sugar called glycogen. And glycogen then is released at times you need it, like at times of fasting. You release that glycogen stores in your liver. You're running a 10K, you need glycogen stores, at the 3-mile mark, you have used all the glucose circulating in your blood to contract those muscles. Now you need glycogen stores in your liver. So you'll release those glycogen stores in your liver. You also need glycogen in glucose in your brain at night. So your muscles might not be using a lot of glucose, but your brain uses glucose. The main food for your brain is oxygen and glucose. And if you don't have glucose for your brain is going to suffer. So you will release glycogen stores in your liver at night, and you do so by having a circadian rhythm, meaning a rhythmic release of cortisol in the middle of the night. So that's what could be happening. The problem is that if you don't have that rhythmic, so the argument here is, okay, wake up 2 a.m. with my heart beating more. So that the heart beating more is a sign of increased cortisol. But I can't get back to sleep. That's a sign of decreased cortisol. So I know this gets really confusing, and I don't want to harp on this too long, but you need that circadian rhythm release of cortisol to release glycogen to keep your brain alive at night. If you have a decrease of that, so in the effect of adrenal insufficiency, you won't get that circadian release of cortisol, and you will wake up at night in order to kick in your adrenals so that you release cortisol and that your brain stays alive. And those are the people that I wake up every night between 1 and 3 o'clock, and I can't get back to sleep, and it takes me a long time to get back to sleep. Those people have adrenal insufficiency, Therefore, they have to wake up. Their body, their brain wakes them up in order to get cortisol released through a different pathway, not the circadian rhythm pathway, but getting awake, having to wake up, getting agitated, getting up, having to walk to the kitchen, get a drink of water. And that's how you're releasing cortisol. So the treatment for this is typically you start by eating some protein before you go to bed. Eat some protein before you go to bed. See if that helps fix it. Number two, start taking some adaptogens to stimulate and support your adrenal gland. And then if those don't work, then let me know on the next Zoom call. Certain amino acids like glycine and methyl B vitamins are needed in order for the body to detoxify. Since I have to be on low animal protein and have no methyl groups, also when a person says I have MTHFR, that means they have MTHFR, a genetic defect, methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase gene defect. It seems I am not able to detox the way I should. Can I use some kind of amino supplement to help with this? Yes, you can use protein supplements. That's why we have a protein powder through US Enzymes that's low in glutamine that we recommend if you feel like you're low in amino acids. Should I do a cheek swab to know a little bit more about my B vitamins? You can, but you could start simply with trying the US Enzymes protein zyme and see if that makes a difference with you. And again, with cancer patients, the only cancer patients that I recommend go on a methyl supplement, methylated supplements are those that maybe have high homocysteine levels. So getting a blood test and getting your homocysteine levels checked would be a good thing to do. You said protein zyme is good. It contains kale. Is that a problem? No, it doesn't contain too high levels, so it's not a problem. So it's okay. Remember, you're not going to ever eliminate, nitric oxide sources in foods. I mean, I want you to eat green leafy vegetables and you're eating some spinach, but I just don't want you to have a kale shake. I am generally very good at taking my supplements in a timely fashion, but occasionally I get to 4 p.m. and realize that I'm not taking my earlier supplements. When this happens, is this better just to skip what I've forgotten back on schedule, or should I try to cram them all into the evening? I would say skip. I would say skip. And just take your night supplements. You'll be fine. I asked last week, but did not write down. The video was not there. But I do write during the day also and use the amplified, the jackhammer module, as I am not always sitting. Do I need to use the grounding mat? No, you don't. You don't need to use the grounding mat with the jackhammer. The only thing is if you use the jackhammer, it increases the amplification. And if you have it right up, if you have the bulb right up to your tummy, you're going to basically putting a charge on your skin. Like if you walked around in a dry house on the carpet in your socks and you dragged your feet and then you go touch a balloon and you get a shock, right? That is just an electrostatic charge on your skin of electrons because you are rubbing your feet on the floor and you're producing that electron charge. You can also do that with the rice machine. You're picking up electrons. Those are good things, okay? But it's not feel good when somebody comes and discharges it on you and touches you and you both get a shock. It doesn't feel good. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that using a grounding mat can help ground that if you wanted to. You don't need to use a grounding mat. I never suggest using that you have to use a grounding mat when you're using the bulk. So yes, it works just as well without it. Really doesn't make it work any better. I have short day program, but only 1 hour programs, 2 of them. Yep, you could use that during the day. Is IV vitamin C a good thing for anyone with cancer, or should some not do it? What about someone who has stage 4 ovarian cancer now in remission? So no, I would not say IV vitamin C is good for anyone with cancer. Nothing is good for anyone with cancer. Well, I guess I could argue that, I think. some things probably would be good. But the negative thing about IV vitamin C is that just because you have cancer doesn't mean that you don't have something else going on. And just about everybody on this planet now has an autoimmune disease. So if you also have an autoimmune disease, let's say you have thyroid Hashimoto's, okay? So, you've been doing all these nutrients to stimulate your immune system and stuff, and vitamin C is a very strong immune system stimulator. Let's say if you didn't have cancer and you have Hashimoto's, and somebody talked you into doing IV vitamin C, pretty much guarantee you are going to get worse. Your thyroid's going to get worse. You're going to have a greater attack on your thyroid. You're going to have a lot of tiredness, issues with your thyroid. You might go in and get a blood test and your T3 and T4 are way off. I can't figure it out. I had it in balance for a long period of time. And why is this kind of flaring up again? And you're going to have issues because you're doing a really strong immune stimulation. That's why it can be really good with cancer, but it can be really bad with autoimmune disease. So if you're in remission, and let's say, because I don't know your situation, let's say IV vitamin C helped get you there, maybe going down to maybe once a month to do it would be a fine thing to do. But if you're in remission and it wasn't IV vitamin C that got you there, I wouldn't start it. And that would be no matter what kind of cancer you have. Is desiccated liver recommended? So desiccated liver, if I didn't recommend it for you, then no, you don't. I didn't recommend it for you. But is desiccated liver a good thing for people to take? Sure, it's great as long as you have a good source. And almost any good supplement company is using a New Zealand liver source, where it's much less adulterated food sources for the animals, and you got a good clean liver source. So yes, desiccated liver can help stimulate liver function. A desiccated organ can help stimulate that organ issue. And I wrote an article on using desiccated organ supplementation specifically for autoimmune diseases, because there's a philosophy out there that since you have antibodies to self-tissue, let's say it was thyroid, like Hashimoto's, like the example I just said, and then you take desiccated thyroid, it can help that immune reaction that you would have against your thyroid actually take place against that desiccated tissue that you're consuming, and it calms your thyroid itself down. So it can be very helpful. But desiccated tissue, organ tissue, has also been very helpful to help replenish the basically hidden unknown nutrients of that organ to help rejuvenate that organ. So it can be very beneficial. I was making cod liver oil on its own, not the codfish. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, you're fine out of that cod liver oil. Yes, for sure. Yes, I noticed a shock on my computer without the grounding map. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. So in reference to the daily rife, can I also use the nighttime programs during the day? Absolutely. Yep. We have a lot of people that actually do that. So we have a number of people that work at home, and they run their night programs at night, obviously, and then during the day, they'll set up their rife where they're by their computer or whatever, they're working at home, and they run the day program all day long, or the night program all day long. So that's just fine too. So it's easiest, yes, to do. Let's say it's Wednesday, you're going to run the Wednesday night program during the day on Wednesday, and at night when you go to bed. It's just easy to remember that way. So you're just doubling that program that day. So that's just fine, yes. And when my cancer was, when I was really doing very poorly, I would run it. I wasn't running the Rife 24/7 because I wasn't running it in the car, but I was running it constantly through the day. And obviously when I got home, sat down, I was running the Rife. I still do that. So when I sit down at night, I'd be running the Rife. So the more Rife time you can get, the better it's going to be. So remember, what you're doing with the ripe is you're hitting that cancer to get your immune system to take another and another and another and another and another look at it. So will start attacking it and killing it. So the more lifetime, the better. Good reason. If you're feeling good, then get outside and do something. But if you're sitting at home watching TV or reading a book or relaxing, you want to be racing. Okay, if you joined us late, we are now offering one-on-one calls again. You just have to complete that form, the agreement to the stipulations that the state board put on us, I guess. But so we're really excited about that. God just opened up the door for us to do that again, and we are thankful for that. And you know, we have some new people here on the call too. We had a just clinics like ours have been attacked over the years, and our turn was, well, we got attacked back in the early 2000s for doing the RIFE, but that was by the chiropractic board came after me super hard. I got dragged in front of them about 12 times. They hated what I was doing until finally my attorney said, you know, I told you this story lots of times, but the attorney said, you don't even practice chiropractic. What do you have a chiropractic license? Just practice under your pastoral medicine license and just go full blown taking care of cancer patients. So that's what we did. And then the state attorney general's office came against us in 2012 because we were helping this young girl with medulloblastoma, which is a brain cancer. She came to us and she was doing the RIFE and doing nutrition, and she was just doing fantastic, absolutely zero sign of cancer. And the oncologist at Children's, this was a Minnesota patient, filed a complaint against us because the parents didn't want to do chemotherapy. And so the parent just asked, well, I don't know if we want to do chemotherapy. I don't know why we have to do chemotherapy. You know, she's got no sign of disease according to her MRI. When she drove home, the mother and father drove home with the daughter. When they got home, there was a sheriff at the door saying that you will do chemotherapy or we're taking her away from you and she will go into foster care and do chemotherapy. Then we're taking her older sister away from you because we're going to have you declared as unfit parents. And then the Attorney General's office came against us too, because we were her alternative practitioner. She was also going to an acupuncturist and also going to a psychologist because this kid was traumatized. Well, it went to court and we basically won. And the judge did say, well, I don't have enough evidence to say that she could get out of doing chemotherapy, but I'm really in favor of the alternative doctors here. And they forced the state, actually the county, Hennepin County, they forced Hennepin County to pay for all of our care, all of her acupuncturist care, and all of her psychologist care. And they forced the oncologist to do monthly calls with all of us at a group call and explain what care that he was recommending for this young patient. It was an unbelievable, huge win that God prevailed with that. So that was really, really cool. And then the state really left us alone until last year, when they just came against us again. And it wasn't just us, because I actually personally know multiple medical doctors in the state of Minnesota that got the exact same letters. And they just in January dropped everything against us, as long as we put that little stupid stipulation on our website that we don't practice medicine, which was, like I said, 1/10 of the stipulation that we have that everybody signs when they come on board with us. So it's really ridiculous. But again, showing that God's right hand will uphold us if we stay close to him and we trust him. Not that God can't take things away from us too, but God does allow what he wants to allow. And we have to just trust him that he is righteous and he is sovereign in all things, and he knows what's best for us. And he allows difficulties to come in our life to mold us and shape us and grow us more towards the image of his son. And that's what our goal is. That's what our life goal is. Really, that's what it should be. And we're reminded of that every day. So with that, know that I love you and I'm praying for all of you. Make sure you get your questions in on the member site. Make use of the member site and as much as you possibly can. And again, schedule one-on-ones if you need to. Just call the office. So I love you. I'm praying for you all, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.